You might have noticed, people don't like to be evangelized. They don't automatically think our truths are their truths. They won't show up at our church gatherings to hear our ideas, and they can't stand it when we push them to accept our concepts. Yet one truth always remains. People will always be drawn to good news when they see it in action. Though they may not understand everything, good news is always good news when it touches down in real life. In 1917, the communists took over Russia. And as you would expect, they persecuted the church. But what you might not expect, they decided not to make Christianity illegal. Instead, they made it illegal for the church to do good works. This meant the church could no longer feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take care of the orphans and the widows. The state took over all those duties. Within 70 years, the church in Russia was completely irrelevant. I often wonder if the American church is headed in the same direction. Not towards communism or government persecution, but towards irrelevance. Not because of any laws, but by our own doing. I look at the modern church, and I see seminaries, church growth seminars, communication teams, elaborate youth programs, huge campuses and giant screens, paid outreach coordinators, resources, seminars, workshops, training, radio ads, website, apps, and road signs. And yet, church attendance continues to decline. And more people say that they have no specific belief about God. And then, I look back at the early church. They had none of these, and yet they were able to grow at an incredible rate. What did they do right? What allowed them to spread the gospel far and wide while we can barely keep our church doors open? During the earliest years of the Christian faith, there was a terrible plague. Here's how one historian describes the church's response. The Christians were the only people who amid such terrible ills showed their feeling and humanity by their actions. Day by day, some would busy themselves with attending to the dead and burying them. Others gathered in one spot all who were afflicted by hunger throughout the whole city and gave bread to them all. When this became known, people glorified the Christians' God. Can you imagine this happening today? It's okay if you can't. I can't either. We've heard it so many times now. The church is known more for what we stand against than what we stand for. Known for our politics, not for our service. Is it any wonder then that our good news is no longer compelling? We spend all kinds of time and resources trying to find the right worship style, create the perfect program, write the best sermon series, or design the coolest website. All in an effort to make our faith attractive. It's not working. But maybe the answer is really this simple. We need to get out and serve. The church I planted meets in a local elementary school. A few years ago, the school's social worker told us about a man in our neighborhood whose wife had died and who had just suffered a stroke himself. And he was trying to raise his 8-year-old adopted son. So we decided to get involved. 55 of us headed over, we landscaped the yard, painted the whole outside of his house, and helped him clean up the inside. Once the community saw us at work, they jumped in and served right alongside of us. One neighbor offered to pay for the removal of the yard waste, another fixed Jerry's car, and still another offered to fix the roof on Jerry's garage. Several days later, my wife walked into the main office at the school, and the secretaries welled up with tears. They asked her, "What is it with you people? Why are you doing this? None of these people may ever go to your church." That gave Pam a chance to respond. We serve because we are followers of Jesus. We are serving Him by serving you. And that's what He came to do. The words of the gospel are powerful. The message is life-changing. But Jesus is more than words. He's more than a message. He is the Word made flesh. Jesus makes truth visible and helped people experience it through His life. And we're called to do the same. Now, more than ever, People need a radical demonstration of the gospel. The world is full of sin, fear, brokenness, and bad news. What if we offer some good news by offering our time, our gifts, and our lives in a tangible way, in the same way that Jesus would? Maybe that's the kind of power we need to make people take notice. Maybe that's the way we can change the world.